It's been nearly a year since I first rode the Panigale V4 at the Valencia circuit in Spain. Nothing has come close to the experience since. On the racetrack, this is a simply astonishing motorcycle. But today is not about the racetrack. Today, I'm going to ride one of the fastest motorcycles in the world on the ultimate testbed, that is the Indian public road system. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and answer two questions. A, can you genuinely ride this bike on our roads? And B, should you?
Let me tell you straight away that the Panigale V4 is incredibly capable in the environment that it's meant for, and that you are far likely to reach your own limits before you even scratch those of the motorcycle. So instead of the standard review points of performance, ride and handling, I'm going to tell you more about what the V4 is like in the real world. And we begin with one of the prime reasons that superbikes sell in our market, because they look like superbikes. And my word, the V4 is one of the prettiest superbikes that I've ever had the pleasure of gazing at. The design is an evolution of the previous Panigale 1299, and it's become sharper and even more breathtaking with a set of mean-looking headlamps, muscular but tight bodywork, and a deliciously executed tail section.
I just can't stop staring at this motorcycle. The Panigale V4 is achingly gorgeous, and I could sit here for hours just soaking it all in. And it's not just the overall design. When you actually walk up close to the bike, you'll notice some exquisitely finished design and detail touches.
The attention to detail here is something else, especially in some bits like the immaculately finished steering triple clamp, the exotic magnesium front subframe, and the exposed rear wheel. Little hints at how hard Ducati has worked to reduce weight also show in the minimal rear bodywork and those surprisingly slim foot pegs. Every gram saved counts. I think this is a tremendously well finished motorcycle, and that adds so much to the allure of owning a bike like this. You'll hear the word exotic frequently used when someone talks about a flagship Ducati superbike, and this is exactly why.
This new Panigale is such a gorgeous motorcycle that sometimes you'll find yourself in the situation where you'd rather be looking at the bike than riding it. And big city traffic is one such situation. Don't get me wrong though, any of these kind of motorcycles is a pain to ride in big city traffic, but the V4, this takes it to a whole new level.
Part of the issue here rises in the seating position. It's quite extreme, more so than most Japanese rivals, and the seat is rock hard too. Clearly, comfort was at the back of the designer's to-do list, and given the intended role of the motorcycle, that's completely understandable. But the real challenge comes in the heat. After 15 to 20 minutes in traffic, the heat gets so intense in the frame that you simply can't hold onto the motorcycle with your thighs, and you have to let go. This puts even more pressure on your wrists, which only tires you out further. A properly heavy clutch and an engine that gets grumpy below 2000 RPM are just the icing on top. Now, I'm not one to complain about hot motorcycles, but believe me when I tell you, you want to stay away from heavy traffic with this one.
Here's a fun fact. In heavy traffic, the heat on this bike gets so intense that even the key gets hot.
But I have to give credit to the bike's cooling system. As uncomfortable as things get for the rider, the Panigale never overheated and it never forced the engine to cut out. Now naturally, this tendency to get hot is not news to big bike owners, and most who live in big cities tend to take their bikes out late at night. I did this too, and I found the Panigale easier to live with, and the full LED headlamp provides good illumination in the dark as well. But there's no denying that within urban limits, this bike feels like a caged beast constantly pulling against a chain. And that chain is only as strong as how much control you've got over your right wrist. And believe me, you need a lot of self-control, given that this 1100cc V4 engine makes 214 horsepower. Factor in a curb weight of 198 kilos, and you have an almost unimaginable power-to-weight ratio of nearly 11 horsepower per ton. With this kind of performance, whacking the throttle open anywhere is almost impossible.
On the street, two things really stand out, and the first and biggest of them is just how much power this V4 engine has. The performance is insane, shattering, overwhelming even. No road feels big enough, and there's so much performance on offer, it always seems just out of reach. The second thing, and this took me by surprise, is just how loud this bike is. I couldn't believe it was running a stock pipe at first, but yes, this is a stock exhaust. To give you some perspective, this bike actually feels louder than some bikes that I've ridden with aftermarket slip-on exhausts.
the power really never seems to end. To give you a sense of what it's like, the V4 will hit 142 km per hour in first gear, and the rate of acceleration is just ferocious all the way through. On a long straight at a racetrack, the bike accelerates all the way up to 300 km per hour, at which point the digital display stops showing the speed. But the V4 will keep building speed until it eventually runs into the rev limiter, which is said to be at around 310 km per hour. Having ridden the Panigale V4 twice now, I'm still reeling from its violence, and the way it accelerates almost feels like warp drive from Star Trek. Out on the road, you can't even imagine exploring this amount of performance, and I discovered that just riding up to 7000 RPM in every gear was plenty fast enough. That's not even half of the bike's 14,500 RPM rev limit, and it's well before the real power band kicks in. Thankfully, the V4's Brembo Stylema brakes are just incredible. They're the best I've ever experienced, and they do a tremendous job of shedding speed with just one finger on the lever.
But what I'm really grateful for is the electronics package. It's vast, highly customizable, and very advanced in its operation. Most of all, it gives you some peace of mind that there is a system watching your back.
We could dedicate a whole separate review for the electronics on offer, but to put it briefly, the Ducati offers multi-stage adjustable traction control, cornering ABS, engine brake control, slide control, and a very hard-working 8-stage wheelie control. For those of you keen to go drag racing, there's also a 3-stage launch control. All these systems work subtly in the background, and they do a great job of allowing you to feel like a riding hero who's taming all that wild Italian horsepower.
Now, for just how violently fast this bike can be, I'm actually quite impressed with the suspension. Now, obviously it's very firm and sporty and doesn't have a lot of travel, but the damping does allow it to absorb small bumps to a reasonable extent. And in that regard, it's much better than some other Italian exotics that I've experienced that feel uncomfortably stiff and harsh in comparison.
The Panigale V4 is an exotic in every sense of the word. It's achingly beautiful and monumentally capable. It's also a proper pain to deal with in day-to-day life, but the discomfort is not the real problem. To me, the issue here is that the Panigale never feels truly satisfying on the road, and that's because its sheer breadth of capabilities is at a much higher level than what the road can sustain. But then again, this isn't a day-to-day motorcycle, and it's this very focus that gives the Panigale V4 such a sense of occasion and makes it such a spectacular onslaught on all your senses. Considering what's on offer, I think that the price tag of at least 20 lakh for this base V4 model is very reasonable. For those of you who want the higher spec V4S model with its electronic suspension, forged aluminium wheels and a lithium-ion battery, the price is about Rs 5 lakh more. But honestly, the base V4 hits the spot more than hard enough.
To those of you that aspire to own this machine, I can tell you that it's everything you could possibly dream of, and then some. But I'll also tell you this, if you plan to buy this bike and solely use it on the road, you're doing yourself and the machine a great injustice. The Panigale V4 was born and bred on the racetrack, and that's where it thrives, especially in the Indian context.